Situated in the central highlands of Sri Lanka, the city of Kandy is the last capital of the Kingdom of Sri Lanka before it was annexed as a part of the British Empire in 1815. The city, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is considered by Buddhists as one of the most sacred places on earth due to the presence of the tooth relic of Lord Buddha that resides inside an inner chamber of the temple of the sacred tooth relic, also known as Sri Dalada Maligawa. In addition to being worshipped daily by devotees, the relic is offered with numerous ritual services known as thewawa, as prescribed by centuries-old traditions. Those rituals or services are an important part of Sri Lanka's intangible cultural heritage. Buddhists in Sri Lanka and elsewhere believe that the sacred tooth relic is the lower left canine tooth of Lord Gautama Buddha, the founder of Buddhism, who lived in India in the 6th century BC. After his demise and subsequent cremation, the unburnt parts of bones were said to have been divided among his followers to be worshipped as relics of the Master. The relic worship occupies an important place in Buddhist rituals in ancient India and Sri Lanka. Worship of Lord Buddha's bodily relics is considered as equal to worshipping living Buddha. In the early part of the 4th century AD, the tooth relic was in the possession of King Guhasiva of Kalinga country, which is present-day Odisha, in northeastern India, where there was political unrest. According to legend, the king, fearing the safety of keeping the relic in his possession, sent it to his friend, King Kitsrimevan of Sri Lanka, for safekeeping. The legend says that the relic was brought to Sri Lanka by King Guhasiva's daughter, Princess Hemamala, hidden in her hair ornament, accompanied by her husband, Prince Danta, both disguised as ascetics to avoid discovery. In Sri Lanka, the tooth relic was considered to be the most sacred or the holiest object of worship for the Buddhists. Therefore, rulers in ancient Sri Lanka built elaborate edifices in close proximity to the royal palace for the safety of the relic and to facilitate the public to worship it. Those edifices were called Dalada Maligawa, which means the palace of the tooth relic. Ruins of several such edifices that housed the relic from time to time are found in ancient capitals in Sri Lanka. Numerous rituals in honor of the tooth relic began to appear from those early days. It is believed that the rituals or services have been decreed by the ancient kings. Over many centuries, those rituals have developed into elaborate forms of services, reflecting an important aspect of Sri Lanka's intangible cultural heritage. Most of the rituals performed today at the Temple of the Tooth Relic in Kandy have derived from directions or decrees for ritual performances outlined in a literary work named Dalada Sirita, compiled by a late 13th century king of Kurunagala.
කුරුණෑගල රාජධානියේදී අපිට පේනවා ලිඛිත මූලාශ්‍රයක් හැටියට අපිට හමු වෙන දළදා සිරිත තුල නියම කරලා තියෙනවා ව්‍යවස්ථාවන් 38ක් සඳහන් කරලා මේ ආකාරයට තමයි දළදා වහන්සේට පුද සත්කාර පැවැත්විය යුත්තේ කියලා. එහි සඳහන් වන පුද සත්කාර පිළිවෙතත් පසුව මහනුවර යුගයේදී ආරම්භ වුණ රජවරුන්ගේ රජමැදුරේ පැවැත්වුණු යම් පූජාචාරිත්‍ර විධි ක්‍රමත් සංකලනය වෙලා තමයි අද වන විට අපේ ශ්‍රී දන්ත ධාතුන් මන්දිරයේ පැවැත්වෙන පූජාචාරිත්‍ර පරම පූජනීය දළදා වහන්සේට ඉෂ්ට සිද්ධ කරන බුද සත්කාර පවත්වාගෙන එන්නේ.
We can see the extent to which certain Hindu ritual elements have been introduced by the kings of the Nayakar dynasty of South Indian origin. Therefore, what we see today as ritual services in homage to the sacred tooth relic are obviously a mixture of ancient Sri Lankan traditions and South Indian elements. The term thewawa, which means the service, has derived from the Tamil word thevai, denoting the service to the king. Ritual services commence as early as 5:15 in the morning. It begins with playing of ritual music known as Havisi, played using two types of drums and a wind instrument. Its purpose is to signal the team of servicemen to get ready for the ritual. This part of the ritual is done before the entering of devotees into the shrine. The monk in charge of the service, in association with other monks and lay servicemen, opens the door. Then a serviceman brings the offerings of water and the morning meal that had been prepared earlier.
අද වන විට අපිට දක්නට ලැබෙනවා මූලික කටයුතු මල්ලාසනේ පිරිසිදු කිරීමේ ආදී කටයුතු නිමා වුණාට පස්සේ මල් පූජා කරලා දේවබාර අපේ නායක ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ බැතිමතුන්ලත් අවස්ථාවක් ලබා දෙනවා මල් පූජා කිරීමට. ඉන් අනතුරුව මුල්තැන් බුද්ධ පූජාවන් පවත්වන වේලාව ලැබුණ අවස්ථාවේදී ඒ සඳහා තිර වසා දමලා ඒ කටයුතු රහස්‍ය විදියට තමයි සිදු වුණේ අතීතයේ පටන්. වර්තමානයේදී මුල්තැන් දානය බාර ගන්න බැතිමතුන්ට ඒ දානය පූජා කිරීමට සම්බන්ධ වෙන්න අවස්ථාවක් සලසා තිබෙනවා.
While the offering of the morning meal takes place in the upper level, where the sacred inner chamber is situated, the team of musicians on the lower level keep playing their instruments as an offering of sound. The type of music played for this ritual service is called Havisi. These musicians use the drum, the double drum, and the trumpet. Generally, players of Havisi music wear a headband called uramala. However, when they play Havisi music for this ritual, they put it around their neck instead of wearing over the head. Music of this type plays an important role in the ritual services of the tooth relic. It informs the devotees that the act of ritual offering is taking place. Secondly, it helps raise the feelings of devotion in the minds of the devotees. drum beats played are composed by traditional drummers according to certain traditional forms. It is believed that the playing of drums in this manner were limited to pay homage to the Lord Buddha. Later, it was extended to play for the gods and then for the auspicious events of the kings. The drummers who play at the Tooth Relic Temple are well trained and experienced in the art of ritual drumming. Once this part of the ritual service is over, the musicians keep their instruments at a place designated for that purpose. Those instruments are used only for the services for the Tooth Relic. The morning service ends with locking the doors and returning the keys back to the monk in charge of the service. The musicians who make the sound offerings belong to a traditional lineage of drummers as proclaimed by ancient kings who have given them land grants for maintenance. Therefore, their services are considered to be a service to the Tooth Relic Temple as well as a service to the royal palace. Therefore, they are very proud of their position as drummers or musicians taking part in the ritual service. Let's listen to the head of the team of drummers.
මම උඩුවෙල පරම්පරාවේ ඕතන්නේ පණි කියලා ගෙදර කරුණාදාස මට මේක පැවරුනේ මාගේ ප්‍රිය පරම්පරාවෙන් පළමුවෙනි මුත්තා කුසුඹා අත්ත සරණ මාගේ පියතුමා ඕතන්නේ පණි කියලා ගෙදර ඇවිත්තා ඒකෙන් පස්සේ තමයි මේක පැවිදිලා තියෙන්නේ මට පැවිදිලා තියෙන රාජකාරිය දිනපතා දලණ්ඩා මාලිගාවේ පැවැත්වෙන ශ්‍රද්ධ පූජාවට මම වගේ කියන්න ඕන. එතකොට සතර මංගල්‍යයට පෝය මංගල්‍ය ඒ හැම දෙයකටම මම බාරව ඉන්නවා මම ඒ බාරගත්තු රාජකාරිය හරියටම ඉෂ්ට කරනවා.
Drummers wear a special dress when they participate in the ritual service. Those who take part in the anointing ritual on Wednesdays will have to clean their hair with lime juice and shower. During the ritual, drummers cover their hair with a piece of white cloth. The drummers, dressed as they should be, arrive at the lower level of the drumming pavilion and are ready for the next action. Devotees can watch the entire second phase of the ritual during the afternoon service. The second phase of the ritual service begins around 9:15 in the morning. The person carrying the keys obtains the set of keys from the monk in charge for services and walks towards the inner chamber. He is followed by another monk who is in charge of the second phase of the service. The rest of the monks and the servicemen follow them.
ඔහු පෙරටුවයි ගමන් කරන්න. අලුයමදී නම් පණ්ඩමක් රැගෙන යන තැනැත්තෙක් ඔහු සමග ගමන් කරනවා. ඔහු පළමුව ගමන් කරනකොට තේවාභාර නායක මාහිපාණන් වහන්සේ දෙවනුව ගමන් කරනවා. ඊළඟට දෙවන තේවාභාර නාහිපාණන් වහන්සේ ගමන් කරනවා.
On Wednesdays, the monks participating in the anointing ritual should clean themselves and wear new robes. The other monks and the serviceman board enter from the lower entrance.
මේ අනුපිළිවෙල දිහා බැලුවම අපිට පේනවා අපේ දළදා වහන්සේ වැඩ සිටින මාලිගාවේ යතුරු කට්ටලයට පවා කොතරම් ගරු ගහම්බීර බවක් මේ පූජා චාරිත්‍රයන්හිදී ලැබෙනවද කියලා. ඒ රැගෙන යන ගීත නැත්තා වුණත් ඒ නිලකරුවා වුණත් සාමාන්‍ය චාරිත්‍රයේදී අපි පළමුව ගමන් කරන්නේ අපේ ගරුතර මහා ස්වාමීන්ද්‍රයන් වහන්සේලා. නමුත් මෙහිදී වට්ටෝරු රාළ තමයි තමන්ගේ උර මත තබාගෙන යතුරු කට්ටලය පයින්ඩ කරන්නේ.
The bell begins to ring once the monks in charge of the ritual service enters the inner chamber. On Wednesdays, an anointing ritual precedes the offering of the noon meal. For this purpose, 2 service women enters the shrine from the lower level. Apart from this, the poets enter from the lower floor to participate in the nanumura ritual. At this time, the materials required for the anointing ritual have to be brought by the chief of the kitchen, and then the drummers start playing music. The purpose of anointing is cleaning icons or divine ornaments by bathing them in traditionally prepared medicinal water. However, for the sacred tooth relic, this is done only in a symbolic way. The symbolic anointing of the relic begins at an auspicious time. The ritual begins with the entering of the conch shell blower holding an incense burner while the drummers making sound offerings. At the same time, on the upper level, a team of 4 vocalists of the traditional pavilion of poets keep singing poems in praise of the relic. In the past, the pavilion of poets was there to sing the praises of the king. They sing poems following the casket as it travels through the streets.
ශ්‍රී වික්‍රම රාජසිංහ රජතුමා ඉන්න කාලේ තමයි මේ කවිකාරු මඬුව පැවැත්ගෙන ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ. රජුරෝ ගමට යනකොට නෙළුම් කවි කීක ගායනා කරන නෙළුම් ගුවන් හදාගෙන තියෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි රජතුමා කැඳවලා තමයි ශ්‍රී ධම්මාලිගාවේ කවිකාරු මඬුව විදිහට පත් කරලා තමයි කවි ගායනා කරන්න පුරුදු කරලා තියෙන්නේ දනදා වංශය වෙනුවෙන්. මුඛ පරම්පරාවෙන් තමයි කියන්නේ. ඉස්සර තාත්තලාගේ පොත් තිබ්බේ. ඉතින් අපිට පොත දෙනවා. පොත දීලා සතියට එක කවියක් පාඩම් කරන් යන්න ඕනේ තාත්තා ගාවට හරි ගුරුනාථ ගාවට හරි. ඒතර තමයි අපි එහෙම තමයි පුරුදු වුනේ. සුද්ධවත් කුමාරය ඉපදුන දවසේ ඉඳලා ගියේ කරකෙයිලා ගිහිලා බුදු බව ලබලා දලනදා වංශයේ ලක්බිවට තැන්පත් කරන මොහොතේදී සියලු දේම කවි ගාවට නංගලා තමයි ගායනා කරන්නේ.
These musicians are getting ready to play Nagasingham music. Another form of sound offering performed only on Wednesdays and on the 4 Poya days can be called circular drumming. Drummers play their instruments while circumambulating the shrine in honor of the relic 3 times. These are the musicians playing the South Indian music known as Nagasingham. All the instruments used in this performance are of South Indian origin. It illustrates the ability of living cultural practices to borrow elements from other cultures and integrate them with local traditions, enriching its shared character. The drummers are followed by flag bearers and umbrella bearers. Another form of ritual which is performed in honor of the relic by 2 servicewomen is known as Alati Bama. This ritual is not to be seen by others. However, the same ritual is performed at shrines dedicated to various deities. In the same ritual performed at the shrine of the deity of Skanda, the service women place a burning cotton wick soaked in oil on 2 silver plates that they rotate. The purpose of this ritual act is to ask for blessings. Another special ritual event reminds us of an ancient traditional practice associated with the worship of the tooth relic. In ancient times, the chief drummer used to provide the king with a tray of white jasmine flowers to worship the tooth relic. Today, either the chief drummer or another senior member of the team of drummers gives a tray of white jasmine to the monk in charge of the service, reminding us of the significance of the continuation of ancient traditions. The ringing of the bell indicates the conclusion of the anointing ritual and that it is the time to prepare for the offering of the alms of the noon meal to the relic. With the ringing of a small bell, the leading serviceman for kitchen carries the alms on a shoulder pole to the inner chamber on the upper level, while another serviceman carries one to the image house in the lower level. Drummers keep the sound offerings during the entire event. The vessel containing the remaining ointment that was used for anointing also is brought towards the devotees, who take small portions of the medicinal mixture to take home. People believe that this ointment has healing powers. The only wind musical instrument that accompanies drumming for sound offering is called horanava. The traditional melodies played with this instrument are similar to the recitation of Buddhist stanzas by devotees during worship.
Agrabodhi namavam devarukka sanniban sanvisala bodhipada pannamami sappada පන්නමාමි සබ්බදා. ඒ වගේ ගාථාව සමන හැම ගාථාවක්ම මගේ ඒ ගීතෙන් නෑ කාල සීමාව ඒ පැයක් හමාරක් ගත වෙන තුරු ඒ කාල සීමාව ශබ්ද පූජාව පවතින තුරු මගේ හඬ තමයි මේ වෙනකොට ගෙවෙන්නේ.
James Molagoda is a highly experienced player of this instrument. He trains his son to be the lead Hornet trumpet player in the future. By this time, the monk in charge of the service is offering the alms of noon meal to the relic inside the inner chamber. During this time, the drummers keep playing the drum beats that are specific to that occasion. During this time, the chief lay guardian of the sacred temple visits the site to worship the relic. The ringing of the bell indicates that the end of the offering of alms. The drummers change the drum beat accordingly. At this time, the door to the upper chamber is opened for the devotees to worship the relic, which is inside a casket. However, they are not allowed to enter the inner chamber. The lead serviceman for kitchen now removes the food offerings from the inner chamber back to the kitchen. The drummers play a different beat to signify the event. This has brought the end of the mid-noon offering of the arms to the relic. Different drum beats are played to indicate the end of this part of the ritual service.
උඩුවෙල පරම්පරාව, මාළගම්මන පරම්පරාව, මොළගොඩ පරම්පරාව, ඉහිල්ල පරම්පරාව. පරම්පරා හතරක් තියෙනවා. ඒ හතරෙන් මම නියෝජනය කරන්නේ මාළගම්මන පරම්පරාව.
The artists or the practitioners are committed to training their children to ensure the continuation of the tradition to the next generation.
මගේ පසුව මගේ පුතා තමයි ඒකට සම්බන්ධ වෙනවා. එයා දැන් මේ 8 වෙනි වසරේ ඉගෙනම ලබන්නේ. එයාට තමයි මේක හුරු කරලා දිගටම කරගෙන යන්න අධ්‍යාපන කටයුතු නිමෙමින් පසු හුරු කරන දිගටම මෙතන යොමු කරලා තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු.
In case an artist does not have a son, he will train his brother. This knowledge and skills are transmitted only within family circles. Another important part of the ritual service is the ceremony for the offering of new rice. Farming communities bring a portion of rice from their new harvest to the temple prior to consuming them. Part of that rice is kept for the use of the temple. The remainder is distributed among the shrines of the 4 guardian deities that surround the Tooth Relic temple. When the new rice is offered to the Tooth Relic, the Pavilion of Poets commences the recitation of poems in praise of the Tooth Relic. The last item of the ritual service of the day is the offering of medicinal requisites, known as Gilanpasa, to the Tooth Relic, that begins around 6 p.m. Drummers begin to play music to inform the devotees that this part of the ritual is about to commence. case the person carrying the keys of servicemen fails to attend due to illness or other reason, to obtain the set of keys and carry it to the inner chamber, a senior monk will do it. It is not allowed to use lay workers for this purpose. The senior monk will open the door to the inner chamber. Two other monks will take the keys to open the door of the lower image house and to the octagonal pavilion. Another official of the service team places the traditional weapons, murayuda, on either side of the entrance to the chamber. Then the bell rings to inform that the monk in charge is entering the inner chamber. The monk removes the previously offered flowers away from the altar and lay new ones to worship the relic. The monks who do this service identify themselves as equal to Monk Ananda, who was the personal attendant of the historic Lord Buddha. The monks who get the opportunity to perform this service consider it as a rare and highly meritorious act. During this time, the devotees get an opportunity to worship the tooth relic. In the meantime, the offerings of medicinal requisites are being prepared in the kitchen. Once the preparations are done, two servicemen carried over into the ground floor. The others prepare the inner chamber to receive the offerings. As the medicinal offerings are brought into the ground floor, the drummers begin to play their music. After a while, the leading serviceman, but downstairs, will take the offering of medicinal requisites and go downstairs to the image house. The offering of the medicinal requisites is performed twice due to a historic reason. In the past, King Kirti Sri Rajasingha, who ruled the Kandyan kingdom from 1747 to 1781, was not able to join the ritual as he arrived late to the temple. To give the king an opportunity to make the offerings, the ritual was repeated. This incident has created a new tradition to perform the evening ritual twice daily. The leader of the kitchen in the service team is bringing the second offering of the medicinal requisites. All daily ritual services at the temple of the Tooth Relic end around 8:30 p.m. Finally, the monk in charge of the daily services, guided by a torchbearer, arrives at the door of the lower level and leaves for his cell. It is believed that the torchbearer must be a cultural residue from an ancient practice. The custody of the sacred tooth relic is held by two chief prelates of the Malwatu and Asgiri chapters. Every year, on the full moon day in August, the Dalada service is transferred to one of the two chapters. It is attended by the venerable high priest of both chapters. From then on, for a year, the Dalada thewawa is served by one chapter. In addition to the two prelates, there is also a lay guardian who takes care of the daily services, rituals, and day-to-day management of the temple establishment. It is a part of his duty to participate in the annual procession after the elephant carrying the casket tooth relic.
විශේෂයෙන් දළදා මාලිගාව තුළ දළදා වහන්සේ විශේෂ සිදු කරන්නා වූ ඒ සියලු පුද පූජා නිසියාකාරය පවත්වාගෙන යාමට සඳහා අවශ්‍ය සියලු දේවල් සපයා දීමේ සිට සියලු කටයුතු මෙහෙයවීම වගකීමක් හැටියට මට පැවරෙනවා. ඉන් අනතුරුව ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාව සතු නිශ්චල සහ චංචල දේපල ඒ ආකාරයෙන් පරිපාලනය කරගෙනමින් එහි අභිවෘද්ධිය සඳහා කටයුතු කිරීම ප්‍රධාන කාර්යභාරය වෙනවා.
Ritual services in honor of the sacred tooth relic have been continued by Sri Lankan Buddhists for over 600 years. Knowledge and skills needed for those ritual practices have been safeguarded by the practitioners through generational transmission. Those living the cultural traditions associated with the temple further enhance outstanding universal value of the city of Kandy as a UNESCO World Heritage Property.